It was a pitch-black night, the kind where the darkness feels almost tangible, pressing against your skin and senses. The headlights of my car barely cut through the thick shadows as I navigated the winding roads through the redwoods, the ancient trees towering like silent sentinels on either side. This was a familiar route for me and my friend, a regular pilgrimage from Southern Oregon University to the Elk Valley Casino on the coast. A 2-hour drive filled with music, laughter, and the thrill of the gamble. But this night was different. As I rounded a sharp bend, my heart seized in my chest. There, straddling the white line on the road, was something I couldn't comprehend. A massive, pitch-black figure, darker than the surrounding night, loomed ahead. The car's headlights seemed to be swallowed by it, revealing nothing but an impenetrable void. What the fuck was that? I screamed, my voice cracking with fear. My friend in the passenger seat, his face ashen with terror, had seen it too. Our teammate, roused from sleep in the back seat, demanded to know what was happening. But how could I explain the inexplicable? 12 years ago, as a college freshman, my life revolved around spontaneous adventures and the tight-knit camaraderie of our wrestling team. We thrived on the thrill of impromptu road trips, often driving through the night to the coast to try our luck at the casino. The ritual was simple: gather a crew, burn a mixtape, and hit the road. That night was supposed to be just like any other, but fate had other plans. It was close to 3 a.m. when the eerie encounter occurred. My friend and I were silently contemplating our losses and gains, our teammate snoring softly in the back seat, the rhythmic hum of the tires on asphalt the only sound breaking the silence. The road through the redwoods was notoriously narrow and winding, with each turn revealing a fleeting glimpse of the dense forest before darkness reclaimed it. As I maneuvered through yet another bend, something caught my eye. At first, it was just a shape in the distance, an anomaly in the otherwise uniform blackness. But as we drew closer, it became disturbingly clear that this was no ordinary shadow. It was a towering, shapeless mass, standing over 9 feet tall, devoid of any discernible features, a void among voids. Instinctively, I slowed the car, my mind racing to classify what I was seeing. But there was nothing in my experience or imagination that could make sense of it. The creature, or whatever it was, exuded an aura of malevolence that paralyzed me with fear. Every fiber of my being screamed to get away, yet I couldn't tear my eyes from it. Finally, as we passed by, the oppressive weight of its presence lifted just enough for me to regain my senses. What the fuck was that? I shouted, breaking the silence. My friend turned to me, his eyes wide with the same terror that gripped my heart. He didn't need to speak. The fear in his eyes said it all. "Pull over," he yelled, his voice frantic. But I couldn't. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as I kept driving. My friend's pleas turned to anger, then desperation, as he begged me to turn around. Our teammate, confused and irritated at the commotion, sided with him, calling me a coward. Reluctantly, I pulled over, my hands trembling as I stepped out of the car. "You drive," I said to my friend, my voice barely a whisper. "I can't go back there." With my friend now behind the wheel, we drove back the way we came, but the road was empty. The mysterious figure was gone, leaving nothing but the echo of our fear in the cold night air. We spent the rest of the night in my friend's dorm, too shaken to sleep, replaying the encounter over and over in our minds. Days passed before I could shake off the lingering dread and return to some semblance of normalcy. Yet, the image of that shadowy figure haunted my thoughts, an unresolved mystery that gnawed at the edges of my sanity. Over the years, I searched for answers, scouring the internet for similar stories, but found nothing that matched our experience. A year later, the terror resurfaced. This time, it was even stranger, and the details more perplexing. But that's a story for another day. For now, I'm left with more questions than answers, a lingering fear that there are things in this world beyond our comprehension. Months passed, and though the fear had receded to a dull throb, it never truly left me. The memory of that black void haunted the edges of my consciousness, intruding in the quiet moments when I was alone with my thoughts. Life went on, as it always does, but the shadow of that night lingered like a dark cloud on the horizon of my mind. Then came the second encounter. It was late autumn, the air crisp with the promise of winter. My friend and I had once again found ourselves on a late-night drive, this time to a party at a friend's cabin deep in the woods. The journey took us along a different route, but the eerie isolation of the Redwoods was the same. The trees seemed to close in around us, their ancient trunks a silent witness to the passage of time. The party was in full swing when we arrived, a welcome contrast to the foreboding drive. We immersed ourselves in the revelry, trying to shake off the residual unease from the previous year's encounter. As the night wore on, the laughter and music provided a comforting distraction, but a part of me remained vigilant, my senses heightened by the memory of the black figure. It was well past midnight when we decided to head back. The party was winding down, and the prospect of navigating the winding roads in the dark loomed ahead. We said our goodbyes and piled into the car, the cold night air biting at our faces. The drive back was uneventful at first. We chatted idly, trying to keep the atmosphere light. But as we entered the densest part of the forest, a heavy silence settled over us. The road twisted and turned, each bend revealing nothing but more darkness. Suddenly, the car's engine sputtered and died, the headlights flickering out. We coasted to a stop, the silence of the night pressing in on us. My friend tried the ignition, but the car refused to start. We were stranded in the middle of nowhere, miles from the nearest town. "Shit," my friend muttered, frustration tinged with fear. "What now?" I glanced around, the oppressive darkness seeming to close in. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe we should call for help." As we fumbled for our phones, a chill ran down my spine. The air seemed to grow colder, the darkness thicker, and then I saw it. A familiar shape emerging from the shadows, a towering black mass standing at the edge of the road. "It's here," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. My friend followed my gaze and froze, his eyes widening in terror. The figure was closer this time, more defined. It was as if the darkness had taken on a life of its own, coalescing into a form that defied explanation. There were no eyes, no features, just an overwhelming sense of malevolence that radiated from it. My friend and I were paralyzed, unable to look away. The figure began to move, gliding towards us with an unnatural grace. I could feel its presence, a palpable force that seemed to reach into my very soul. "Get in the car," I hissed, snapping out of my trance. We scrambled back into the vehicle, slamming the doors shut. My friend turned the key in the ignition, and miraculously, the engine roared to life. Without a second thought, he floored the accelerator, the tires screeching as we sped away. The drive back to campus was a blur of fear and adrenaline. We didn't stop until we reached the safety of the dorms, our nerves frayed and our minds reeling. We sat in silence for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. Over the next few days, we talked endlessly about the encounter, analyzing every detail. But no matter how much we discussed it, we couldn't make sense of it. The figure remained an enigma, a dark blot on our understanding of the world. Years passed, and life moved on. Graduation came and went, and we all went our separate ways. But the memory of those nights in the Redwoods stayed with me, a haunting reminder of the unknown lurking just beyond the edge of perception. Every now and then, I find myself drawn back to those winding roads, searching for answers that remain elusive. The internet has provided little solace. Stories of shadowy figures and unexplained encounters are plentiful, but none match the sheer terror of what we saw. I've come to accept that some mysteries may never be solved. The world is full of strange and inexplicable phenomena, and perhaps that's part of what makes it so fascinating and terrifying. The encounter with the black figure was a brush with the unknown, a glimpse into a realm that defies our understanding. Sometimes, late at night, I still see that towering shadow in my dreams. It stands at the edge of my vision, a silent guardian of secrets best left unexplored. And in those moments, I remember the fear, the awe, and the sense of wonder that comes from facing the inexplicable. Has anyone else encountered something like this? I'm not looking for validation or upvotes, just some insight, some connection to others who've glimpsed the unknown and